Right now, a dangerous tropical low is forming in the Coral Sea, and if it strengthens overnight, parts of Queensland could be looking at their worst flooding event in over a decade. Over 22,000 homes have already lost power, 50,000 cattle gone, and this storm is not done yet. Here is exactly what you need to know, city by city, hour by hour, so you and your family can stay safe. And if you stay until the 5-minute mark, I will reveal the one region that most forecasters are not talking about yet, but could be hit the hardest in the next 48 hours. But first, let me tell you why this weather system is unlike anything we have seen this season. The Bureau of Meteorology has been tracking a broad monsoon depression that formed in the Coral Sea. This system was designated Tropical Low 12U, and within days, it intensified rapidly. Willis Island recorded wind gusts of 133 kilometres per hour. That is not a gentle breeze. That is strong enough to rip roofing sheets clean off a house. Now, here is the twist most people missed. This tropical low was not supposed to become a cyclone. The initial forecast gave it only a moderate chance of intensifying. But the Coral Sea had other plans. Sea surface temperatures are sitting 2 to 3 degrees Celsius above average right now. That is rocket fuel for tropical systems, and it changed everything. Within hours, the Bureau upgraded the system. Gale force winds began wrapping around the centre, and Tropical Cyclone Koji was officially named. But here is where things get really concerning, and do not skip this next part because it directly affects the timing of when your area gets hit. Let us break this down region by region. Townsville. If you are in Townsville, your window started early. The city of Townsville had already conducted controlled releases of water from the Ross River Dam before the system even made landfall. That tells you how seriously authorities are taking this. Rainfall totals around the Herbert and Lower Burdekin districts hit between 200 and 300 millimetres in just 72 hours. Some isolated pockets recorded over 600 millimetres in a single day near Ingham. That is more than half a metre of water falling from the sky in 24 hours. Peak conditions for Townsville have already passed, but the danger is far from over. Flash flooding and riverine flooding will continue through the coming days as all that water works its way through already saturated catchments, Mackay and the Whitsundays. This is where the damage has been devastating. More than 22,000 homes across the Mackay and Whitsunday regions lost electricity. The Pioneer River triggered a major flood warning for the township of Marani. If you are anywhere near the Pioneer, Isaac or Mackenzie River systems, you need to stay on high alert. The peak for Mackay arrived as the system crossed the coast between Ayr and Bowen on Saturday morning. But here is what many people do not realise. The rainfall does not stop when the cyclone weakens. The remnant low will continue to dump 100 to 200 millimetres across the central coast over the next 3 days. That means flooding risks in Mackay will persist well into the middle of next week. And now, do not miss what comes next, because this is the part that affects millions of Australians further south, Cairns and the North Tropical Coast. Here is some relatively better news for those in Cairns. Because you are on the northern side of this system, the wind flow is actually offshore for your area. That means southerly and southwesterly winds pushing moisture away from the coast rather than onto it. You will still see showers and thunderstorms, but the heavy, dangerous rainfall is concentrated to your south. Peak thunderstorm activity for Cairns will occur through Wednesday and Thursday, with conditions easing by Friday. Expect falls of 50 to 100 millimetres, which is manageable but still worth monitoring. Central Queensland and the Fitzroy catchment. Now, this is where things get alarming. The Fitzroy River system is one of the largest in Queensland, and it is already running high. Several rivers in this region, including the Pioneer, Isaac, Mackenzie, Fitzroy, Flinders and Georgina, are experiencing major flooding. The town of Claremont saw up to 60 homes affected by floodwaters, and Yungella, a small community in the ranges behind Mackay, received such severe damage to roads that food and medical supplies could not get through. The peak for central Queensland will build through Wednesday and Thursday as the remnant low drifts inland and slows down. When tropical systems slow down, that is when the worst flooding occurs, because the rain just keeps falling over the same area for hours and hours. But wait. Remember, I promised to reveal the region most forecasters are overlooking? Here it is. Southeast Queensland, Brisbane, the Gold Coast, the Sunshine Coast. Most people assume this system is a northern Queensland problem, but the moisture plume from this tropical low is being drawn southward along the coast. The Bureau of Meteorology has already issued emergency alerts for the Gold Coast and southeastern districts as the remnant moisture pushes east. A vigorous southeasterly change is forecast to bring damaging winds averaging 55 to 65 kilometres per hour, with peak gusts around 90 kilometres per hour to Moreton Island and Stradbroke Island. That is strong enough to bring down trees and power lines. For Brisbane specifically, the timing is critical. Thunderstorms are expected to develop through Wednesday afternoon and evening across inland southeast Queensland. If you are in the Darling Downs region near Dalby, Oakey or Jandaway, severe thunderstorms with damaging winds, large hailstones and heavy rainfall leading to flash flooding have already been detected this week. These storms are moving in a northerly direction, so areas south of Dalby and toward Bowenville need to be on high alert through late afternoon and into the evening. The Gold Coast and northern New South Wales border region, this area sits in a particularly vulnerable position. Sea surface temperatures off southeast Queensland are warm enough right now to sustain tropical development, which is extremely unusual this far south. Last year, Cyclone Alfred proved that southeast Queensland is no longer immune from direct cyclone impacts, with Brisbane recording its wettest day since January 1974, with 275.2 millimetres in just 24 hours. Nearly 250,000 homes and businesses lost power during that event. The lesson from Alfred is simple. If you are in southeast Queensland, do not assume this is someone else's problem. Now, here is your step-by-step preparation guide, and I want you to screenshot this or write it down. Step 1. Check the Bureau of Meteorology website or app right now for flood warnings specific to your local river catchment. Do not rely on general forecasts alone. Your specific creek or river system may have its own warning. Step 2. Charge all your devices tonight. Mobile phones, power banks, torches. If 22,000 homes in Mackay lost power, it can happen to you too. Step 3. If you have medications, especially asthma medications, keep them close. Storms, dust and wind can trigger severe asthma attacks without warning. Step 4. Park your car undercover and away from trees. Large hailstones and falling branches are causing significant damage across multiple regions right now. Step 5. If you have pets, bring them inside or to a secure area. Make sure they have identification in case they escape during the storm. Step 6. Do not drive through floodwater. This is the #1 killer during these events. If it is flooded, forget it. Now let me give you the broader picture, because this is not just about one storm. Queensland has been hit by an extraordinary sequence of weather events this season. The 2025 to 2026 Australian cyclone season has been unusually active, with 6 named systems forming or entering Australia's western region by early January alone. That is well above average. The flooding across Queensland has now caused an estimated $1.2 billion in damage to the state economy. At least 2 fatalities have been directly attributed to flooding, and tragically, 31 additional deaths have been linked to a disease outbreak connected to the flood conditions. Over 50,000 cattle have been lost. For farming communities across northern and central Queensland, this is not just a weather event, it is an economic catastrophe. Premier David Crisafulli has stated that damage assessments in many areas have not even been possible yet because roads remain flooded and communities are still isolated. More than 200 residents were cut off by floodwaters at the peak of the event. And here is something that should concern every Australian. Several rain gauges actually failed during the heaviest rainfall. That means we may never know the true rainfall totals in some of the hardest hit areas. The Premier has called for more investment in rain gauge infrastructure, and when you hear that the instruments designed to measure the rain broke under the weight of it, you understand the scale of what Queensland has been dealing with. Let me now give you the outlook for the coming week across all major Australian cities. Darwin. The wet season is in full swing across the top end. Weekly rainfall totals of 50 to 200 millimetres continue across northern regions. The Katherine River reached its highest level in 5 years recently, and further rainfall is forecast. Expect afternoon thunderstorms daily through the week, with temperatures sitting above average Perth and Western Australia. Here is an interesting contrast. While the eastern states deal with tropical moisture, maximum temperatures across western regions are likely to be below average for the coming fortnight. However, the Pilbara and Gascoyne regions should watch for above average rainfall developing later in the week. Sydney and New South Wales, keep a close eye on the Northern Rivers region, particularly around Lismore and Grafton. If the tropical moisture plume pushes far enough south, these flood-prone communities could see renewed rainfall. After what Cyclone Alfred did to Lismore last year, nobody in that region is taking chances. Melbourne and Victoria. You are largely in the clear from this particular system, but above average temperatures are forecast for eastern and central parts of the country, which could fuel localised afternoon thunderstorm activity. Stay weather aware, Adelaide and South Australia. Similar story to Melbourne, the direct tropical threat is minimal, but remnant moisture tracking across inland Queensland could bring isolated thunderstorms to the state's north later in the week, Hobart and Tasmania. The most sheltered from this event, but east coast swells generated by the Coral Sea activity could bring larger than normal wave heights to the eastern Tasmanian coast by late in the week. Now, here is something I need you to do right now. Drop a comment below telling me exactly where you are located, your city, your suburb, your region. I will personally make sure you get the most specific forecast update I can provide for your area. This is especially important if you are in regional Queensland, because the difference between being 50 kilometres north or south of the system's track can mean the difference between a wet week and a devastating flood. And I have to be straight with you about something. The tidal situation is making everything worse. The Bureau forecast high tides between 3.5 and 4 metres along parts of the Queensland coast, roughly 1 metre above normal levels. When you combine astronomical high tides with storm surge and heavy river outflows, coastal communities face a triple threat of flooding from the ocean, flooding from the rivers, and flooding from the sky, all at the same time. That is the situation we are dealing with right now. This is not about fear. This is about being informed and being prepared. So let us recap the critical timing. For Townsville, the worst has passed, but flooding continues through the week. Stay away from waterways. For Mackay, peak conditions hit with landfall between Ayr and Bowen, but 100 to 200 millimetres more rain is expected through Wednesday. Major flood warnings remain active. For Cairns, expect moderate rainfall Wednesday through Friday, easing by the weekend. For central Queensland, including Claremont, Emerald and Rockhampton, the peak builds Wednesday and Thursday as the remnant low stalls inland. For southeast Queensland, including Brisbane, Gold Coast and Sunshine Coast, damaging winds and thunderstorms expected Wednesday afternoon through Thursday evening. Stay alert for rapid weather changes. For northern New South Wales, monitor the situation closely through the end of the week, particularly if you are near the Tweed, Richmond or Wilson's River catchments. Now, in the next video, I will be tracking what happens when this remnant moisture plume collides with a new trough developing across inland Australia. The Bureau of Meteorology models are split on whether this interaction could trigger a second major rainfall event for regions that are already flood affected. If that happens, we could be looking at flood levels that surpass what we have already seen. Subscribe now and turn on notifications so you do not miss that critical update. Before I go, let me share one more detail that really puts this season into perspective. The 2025-26 cyclone season has now produced more named systems by early February than most seasons produce in their entirety. Climate scientists have pointed to a combination of weak La Nina conditions across the Pacific and unusually warm sea surface temperatures as the driving factors. Waters across the Coral Sea and Southwest Pacific are currently running 2 to 3 degrees Celsius above normal, which is extraordinary. To put that in context, tropical cyclones need ocean temperatures above 26.5 degrees Celsius to form and sustain themselves. Right now, waters off southeast Queensland, an area that historically almost never deals with direct cyclone hits, are warm enough to support tropical development. That is a significant shift, and it means the traditional idea that cyclones are only a far north Queensland problem simply does not hold true anymore. For those of you in regional and remote communities, I know how frustrating it can be when the big forecasts focus on capital cities and miss the places that actually get hit the hardest. That is exactly why I need your comments. Tell me your town, your property, your station name. I will dig into the localised data and give you something actually useful. And one more time, comment your location below. It takes 2 seconds and it could make a real difference for you and your neighbours. Stay safe, Australia. I will be back with your next